What just happened at the APEC Summit 2025 is nothing short of historic, and Canada stands at the centre of it all. Prime Minister Mark Carney sat down with Chinese President Xi Jinping, the first time in 8 years a Canadian leader met directly with the Chinese president. But this wasn't just a handshake photo op. The atmosphere revealed the seismic shift in Canada's global role. While Xi's encounter with Donald Trump was stiff, tense, and distant, his meeting with Carney was warm, open, and remarkably relaxed. What does this tell us about Canada's emerging position on the world stage? Why has Carney's approach transformed Canada from a quiet observer to a confident global player? Stay with me, because this story changes everything you thought you knew about Canadian diplomacy, global power dynamics, and the future of international relations.
It's a pleasure to meet you again and to meet you for the first time in my capacity as Prime Minister. I had the great pleasure of attending, amongst other meetings in China, the G20, over which you presided, at a time of great hope for the international system and great progress under the banner of the G20. I look forward to further progress with your presidency of APEC next year. As you mentioned, our countries have a long history of cooperation, engagement, and trade. 55 years of diplomatic relations marked the anniversary 2 weeks ago. In recent years, we have not been as engaged. In fact, as you know, this is the first formal meeting between the Canadian Prime Minister and the President of the People's Republic of China for 8 years. Distance is not the way to solve problems, not the way to serve our people with people-centric growth, as you have advocated. Pragmatic and constructive engagement is, and I welcome the momentum that has been established.
The scene was understated but historic. Two leaders from vastly different worlds and histories sat across from each other. One represents the world's most populous nation, the other, a nation that has quietly built a reputation as a symbol of stability and influence in the global arena. Yet it wasn't the pomp or the cameras that created the headline, it was the warmth and genuine connection. Unlike Xi's recent frosty encounters with the United States leadership, his engagement with Carney radiated respect, laughter, and hope. This meeting symbolized a thaw, an opening of doors Canada had long left shut in the shadow of Washington's strategic preferences. For almost a decade, Canada and China's relationship was frozen. High-level contact was scarce, diplomacy barely trickled, and trade negotiations faltered. The reason? A geopolitical tug-of-war, largely influenced by the US, which preferred Canada to remain tethered to its orbit economically, politically, and strategically. The US aimed to control every channel to Beijing, shutting Canada out from independent engagement. But today, that dynamic is shifting, rapidly and decisively. Mark Carney's approach signals Canada breaking free from the US's shadow. He's coming to the table not as a deferential junior partner, but as a strategic equal with innovation to offer, a stabilizing presence, and long-term vision. China noticed. Carney continued in the dialogue.
I also welcome the invitation to come to China to further the dialogue, and I very much look forward to doing so, because it's through this constructive and pragmatic dialogue that we will address a path for current issues, that we will establish a road to seize the many great opportunities between our countries, and also to have the platform that's needed for the dialogue to help build a more sustainable, inclusive international system.
This acceptance hints at more than just a symbolic gesture. It signals Canada's return to the geopolitical table with credibility and influence. At the very same summit, Chinese President Xi met Donald Trump, and the contrast with Carney's meeting was stark. Trump's encounter was transactional, marked by rigid body language and measured tone, two powers locked in rivalry, not partnership. But just hours later, Xi's demeanor softened considerably with Carney, full of ease and laughter, a rare sight in today's diplomatic theater. This captured a powerful message about where Canada now stands. It's no longer just America's neighbor, it's a nation Beijing respects, trusts, and wants to work with. That's a seismic shift in the diplomatic order. It's not about who's bigger, but who's seen as credible. Carney has restored that credibility, a feat not achieved in years. Where does this position Canada internationally? Carney's strategy stretches beyond the summit. While some focus on fragile partisan politics and rivalry, Carney has envisioned and enacted a long-term strategy of connection, not confrontation. While Trump burned bridges and provoked international uncertainty, Carney has built durable bridges, from Southeast Asia across Europe, promoting energy cooperation, trade diversification, and technology exchange. Today, Canada is situated at the center of new, expanding trade frameworks designed to diversify away from Washington's volatility. And China, the world's second-largest economy, is now signaling a renewed interest to be a part of this redefined relationship. This isn't about choosing sides between East and West, it's about seeking balance. Canada's economy and diplomacy will no longer rise or fall based solely on Washington's political mood swings. This new chapter is about independence, stability, and principle. You know, this meeting today is long overdue. It has been 8 years since the Canadian Prime Minister has met with the President of China. We now have a turning point in the relationship. A turning point that creates opportunities for Canadian families, for Canadian businesses, and Canadian workers, and also creates a path to address current issues. So very pleased with the outcome of the meeting, Carney stated after the summit. But here's the turning point you need to understand deeply. At the close of the meeting, President Xi extended an official invitation for Carney to visit China. This is more than diplomacy, it represents recognition of renewed Canadian relevance in global politics. A Canadian state visit to China is a major milestone, signaling that Canada's repositioning is earning attention and respect on the world stage. It's the diplomatic equivalent of a standing ovation, recognizing Canada's potential, not just its past. Carney's meeting with Xi is emblematic of a broader global realignment. He's positioned Canada as a critical bridge, a reliable partner that major powers count on when trust is scarce elsewhere. Meanwhile, Trump's America continues to isolate itself diplomatically, which only weakens U.S. influence in a world hungry for stability and cooperation. Every handshake Carney takes, every new bilateral agreement he secures, chips away at Washington's outdated strategy and builds Canadian leverage in an ever-shifting geopolitical landscape. This handshake, this meeting, was about leadership. Xi Jinping sees Carney's Canada as a different kind of Western partner, one that approaches diplomacy with calculation and cooperation rather than competition and domination. Carney understands that in a world fractured by ideology and ego, Canada's strength comes from its reliability, its independent vision, and above all, its credibility. Every word exchanged conveyed the same clear message: Canada is no longer Washington's shadow, it charts its own course. Contrast this with Trump. Where Trump relies on threats, posturing, and confrontation, Carney builds influence through trust and dialogue, qualities that travel further and last longer in global affairs. The warmth in Xi's demeanor toward Carney wasn't merely diplomatic formality, it was a sign of respect and recognition. Conversely, Xi's coldness to Trump sent a stark signal about America's diplomatic isolation. This meeting wasn't just a scheduled stop on the summit, it was a turning point that will be studied by historians. It's the moment Canada transitioned from follower to leader on the global stage. And if Washington's reaction is any indication, Carney's approach is not only working but winning. While Trump clings to fading strategies, Carney is already shaping the future, one built on cooperation, prudence, and principle. If you want to understand why Canada is suddenly one of the most important players in global diplomacy, keep watching. This story is far from over, and its implications touch every Canadian family, every business, and the future of the global economic order. If you appreciate being informed about pivotal global shifts, if you believe in diplomacy that builds peace and prosperity, hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Tell us in the comments, what do you think of Canada's new role? How do you see this shift affecting the North American and global balance of power? Your insights matter as we witness this historic realignment unfold. Join the conversation, share this video, and stay tuned for updates on how Prime Minister Carney's bold diplomacy continues to change the world. Because when Canada leads with credibility and principle, the future looks brighter for everyone.